My name is Ben Rabjohns and I'm one of the Vocations Advisors for the Diocese of Llandaff and also the parish priest in Penrhycaiba. I'm here in St Winifred's Church in Penrhycaiba. As we journey towards Vocations Sunday, which this year is on the 3rd of May, I thought in this little video I'd try and share with you something of my journey of faith and of a sense of vocation which led me to want to be a priest in God's church. This year has been a strange one for priests, as it has for our fellow Christians, as we've had to get used to not being able to gather together to worship as we usually would. But for priests it's been strange too, because we've been unable to gather together to renew our ordination promises, something which we'd usually do in Holy Week. I was able to use Facebook Live to renew my own ordination promises this year, and doing so in such strange circumstances, I was struck by some words which had never struck me in quite the same way before. Talking to God, we were to say that we wanted to renew those promises which, prompted by love of Him, we had willingly and joyfully made on the day of our ordination as a priest. And it was those words, prompted by love, which really struck me, because they, for me, describe so much of what my journey of faith and of vocation has been about. Prompted by love. Firstly, prompted by love, which I've seen in other people. And that's true of the very beginnings of my journey of faith, because I'm convinced that so much of what brought me to faith, and which led me to take faith seriously, was seeing real love in others. Love for God which was joyful and enthusiastic, love for God which was committed, and love for God which was really evident in the way in which they lived their lives. My mum and dad especially were people who taught me to love God. They taught me to pray, they took me to church, but especially they taught me just by their own example, by being people who themselves love God, by being people in whom love for God was evident and obvious. I was also lucky to be part of a church where other people obviously loved God, and where that love obviously made a real and a joyful difference to their lives. So prompted by love, prompted first on the journey of faith by love seen in others. That's something which I really glimpsed powerfully looking back on my own journey as a Christian. But then also prompted by love seen in others fulfilling their vocation as a priest. My dad was a priest, and this year, being without him for the first time during Holy Week, I was struck by how much his real devotion, his real and obvious love for God and for being a priest, especially during the days of Holy Week, was something which led me to want to do the same. Something I had to be careful about on my journey through the selection process, because unsurprisingly and rightly had to make sure that it wasn't just something I wanted to do because Dad was a priest. But I really can see that it was his love and his devotion to God and his vocation as a priest which inspired that same sense of vocation in me, and inspired me to want to be a priest too, to want to do the same things. So prompted by love in others especially, in others on my journey of faith, and in others whose vocation as a priest has inspired me and made me want to do the same. But prompted by love too in my own sense of love for God. My faith has always been something which I really have loved practicing it, loved going to church, loved learning to pray, loved being with others in the church, and eventually learning to try and serve others too. Faith and vocation really is about love, and it's about love in the sense that it's something which is real, like love for others. We'll know it when we see it. We know when we're grasped by love. We know when we fall in love. but also like love because sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes things are harder. Sometimes we just wish it would go away or that it wasn't real. Sometimes we just have to keep at it, even when it doesn't feel much like anything worth keeping at. So those words, prompted by love, are something which has really helped me to reflect on my sense of vocation and on my journey of faith during these past few weeks. Prompted by love, seen in others, in their sense of vocation and in their life of faith. And then my own love, prompting me to want to give my life to God as a priest and to serve him as a priest. It's a good thing to ask ourselves this Vocation Sunday, what is our love prompting us to do? And also to remind ourselves that no matter how uncertain we might feel at times, our own love and the way in which we live our life of faith might also inspire others.